Welcome back to Dinar Flash News. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find the financial landscape you've known for years has been completely transformed overnight. Envision a reality where the physical dinar notes you've accumulated and safeguarded are suddenly declared relics of the past. For many following the Iraqi dinar, this was once a theoretical debate, a hopeful speculation discussed in online forums. Yet, the climate of conjecture has now been shattered by a development far more concrete than mere rumor. We are standing at the brink of a verified structural shift that irrevocably alters the narrative. This is no longer an exercise in interpreting ambiguous statements. It is about comprehending a definitive directive that affects every individual in possession of the legacy currency. For decades, the Iraqi dinar has maintained a specific, recognizable form, familiar to investors and collectors worldwide. These banknotes have carried a profound history, symbolizing a nation that has weathered sanctions, conflict, and a painstaking reconstruction process. For numerous individuals in the diaspora and the international speculator community, these were never just pieces of paper. They were tangible wagers on the eventual recovery of a nation rich in resources but historically poor in stability. The old notes represented a distinct era in Iraq's economic story, a time characterized by volatility and a slow, grinding effort to rebuild the fractured financial system. Until recently, holding these notes was a test of patience, awaiting a sign that the economy had strengthened sufficiently to justify a revaluation, but with no structural assurance the currency wouldn't be demonetized before that value could be realized. The landscape has now been officially redefined because the Central Bank of Iraq has moved beyond theoretical planning and confirmed a comprehensive currency reform strategy. This is a monumental development that validates the long-held suspicions of those who viewed the old system as provisional. However, it also introduces an immediate and pressing urgency for current holders. This is not a minor policy tweak or an interest rate adjustment. This is a foundational overhaul of the very monetary framework. The central bank has indicated that the old banknotes, the very ones stored in safes and drawers globally, are scheduled to be phased out to facilitate a newly redesigned currency system. This confirmation turns a passive waiting game into an active transition period, where understanding the mechanics of this reform is absolutely critical for protecting one's assets. To grasp why this is occurring now, we must examine the broader economic picture that has been developing within Iraq over recent years. This decision was not made in isolation. It is the culmination of years of gradual stabilization efforts that are finally yielding results. Iraq has been working diligently to modernize its banking sector, enhance its infrastructure, and align its financial practices with international standards to escape the economic isolation of its past. The combination of consistent oil revenues, growing foreign investment interest, and a concerted crackdown on systemic corruption has fostered a fiscal environment more robust than it has been in decades. Previously, internal instability and weak governance rendered such a sweeping currency reform too perilous to attempt. The current leadership, however, appears confident that the necessary economic foundation is finally solid enough to support this transition. The specifics of how this reform will be implemented are paramount for anyone holding the current dinar notes. Based on insights from the official announcement, this will not be a chaotic event, but a strictly managed, phased operation. The first and most critical phase will likely involve a rigorous verification process for all existing banknotes. The central bank is acutely aware that a currency exchange of this scale attracts counterfeiters and fraudsters. Therefore, before any value can be transferred or notes exchanged, every single bill will probably need to be authenticated to confirm it is a genuine issuance of the Central Bank of Iraq. This means the condition and provenance of your physical notes are about to become the most important factors determining the fate of your holdings. Once verification protocols are established, the old notes will be systematically replaced by a new series of banknotes. These new notes are designed to reflect modern Iraq, incorporating advanced security features that make them resistant to forgery and compatible with contemporary electronic banking systems. This goes beyond mere aesthetics. It is about utility and trust. The new currency is intended to function seamlessly within a globalized economy, a role the old notes, with their association to past instability, struggle to fulfill. Alongside the physical cash, The entire banking infrastructure is being upgraded to support new clearing systems and foreign exchange mechanisms. This modernization is meant to facilitate international trade and transfers, signaling to the world that Iraq is open for business with a trustworthy currency. For holders of the old dinar, especially those outside Iraq, this transition demands immediate and careful logistical planning. The first step is to objectively assess the physical state of your banknotes, since authentication is the gateway to the new system. Notes that are torn, heavily damaged, or defaced risk being rejected, rendering them worthless. It is vital to ensure your holdings are in the best possible condition and stored securely to prevent deterioration. Furthermore, you should begin organizing any documentation related to the acquisition of those notes. In a global financial environment increasingly focused on anti-money laundering compliance, being able to prove the legitimate source and purchase timeline of your funds may be a mandatory requirement during the exchange process. Overseas holders must also prepare for a significant logistical challenge. When a country reforms its currency, the exchange process is typically most accessible within its own borders. International channels often open more slowly or with stricter regulations. You must remain hypervigilant for official instructions on how the exchange will be handled for those abroad. Will there be authorized correspondent banks in your country? Will you be required to travel? Will there be specific deadlines after which the old notes become invalid? These are not questions to be answered at the last minute. Missing a deadline or failing to follow the central bank's precise procedures could result in a total loss of the asset's value, irrespective of any new exchange rate. A major question that arises is whether this reform guarantees a significantly higher value for the new currency. It is essential to approach this with a grounded, factual perspective. The reform guarantees modernization, structural soundness, and enhanced credibility. It does not automatically dictate a dramatic surge in value. A currency's value reflects economic fundamentals, inflation rates, GDP growth, trade balances, and political stability. While replacing the notes removes inefficiencies and bolsters confidence, it does not magically alter oil prices or resolve all political challenges overnight. Holders should view this as a structural improvement that lays the groundwork for potential future growth, not as an immediate windfall. That said, one should not dismiss the potential long-term positive implications for the Iraqi economy. A modern, internationally recognized currency is a powerful tool for attracting foreign direct investment. If the new dinar is perceived as stable and secure, it reduces the risk for international corporations seeking to do business in Iraq. This influx of capital and commerce can, over time, strengthen demand for the currency, the true driver of value appreciation. By reducing reliance on the US dollar for internal transactions and curbing the black market volatility that plagued the old system, the central bank is attempting to restore sovereignty over its monetary policy. If successful, this creates a stable environment where the currency can appreciate naturally based on economic merit. It is equally important to discuss the inherent risks of such a massive logistical undertaking. Transitioning the monetary supply of an entire nation is fraught with potential pitfalls. Significant challenges exist in printing, securing, and distributing millions of new notes while simultaneously collecting and destroying the old ones. Any mismanagement in this supply chain could lead to temporary shortages, public panic, or confusion, which might briefly destabilize confidence. Furthermore, if the public perceives the exchange process as unfair or opaque, it could trigger a bank run or a temporary crash in the street value of the old notes before they can be exchanged. Holders must be prepared for a period of volatility and uncertainty as the market adjusts to the new rules. For the international community, there are additional layers of complexity involving compliance and costs. Global banking systems are currently very strict regarding currency exchanges involving nations previously under sanctions or labeled high risk. You may encounter significant fees, unfavorable exchange rates, or intense scrutiny from your local banks when attempting to convert the new currency or exchange the old one. It is not as simple as walking into a local branch with a stack of cash. You must factor in the costs of shipping, travel, insurance, and potential legal or administrative fees. all of which could diminish any potential gains. This is why having a clear plan and understanding the regulatory environment in your country is as crucial as monitoring news from Baghdad. We must also issue a stern warning about the inevitable rise of scams and misinformation that accompanies news of this magnitude. Bad actors exploit periods of transition to prey on the uninformed. You may encounter offers for VIP exchange groups or individuals claiming to have special access to the central bank, promising to exchange your notes at a premium rate or with expedited service. These are almost universally scams designed to separate you from your money or your physical notes. The Central Bank of Iraq will operate through official, chartered banking channels. There is no secret backdoor for preferred investors. Relying on unverified dealers or anonymous internet rumors is the fastest way to lose your entire investment. Adhere strictly to official guidelines. The timeline for this transition is another area where expectations must be managed. While the announcement confirms the plan, the execution of such a reform can take months or even years to complete fully. It involves complex international negotiations, software updates for global banking platforms, and a massive public education campaign within Iraq. Holders should not expect to exchange their notes next week. This will likely be a gradual process with specific phases for different denominations or regions. Patience will be a vital asset. Reacting impulsively to every minor update or delay can lead to emotional exhaustion and poor decision-making. Examining the domestic impact, this reform is poised to significantly improve the daily lives of Iraqi citizens, which is the central bank's primary mandate. A modernized currency facilitates easier payment systems, reduces the inconvenience of carrying large amounts of cash for basic purchases, and integrates the population into the formal banking sector. This financial inclusion is crucial for economic development. When citizens trust their currency and banks, they save and invest more, circulating capital within the economy instead of hoarding foreign cash. This internal economic strengthening is the bedrock upon which any future international value of the dinar will be built. If the local population trusts the new dinar, international markets are more likely to follow suit. Transparency from the Iraqi government and the central bank will be the variable that determines the success of this initiative. They must communicate clear, unambiguous guidelines on who can exchange notes, where they can do it, and how long the window will remain open. Any ambiguity will be filled with rumors and black market speculation, potentially derailing the stability they seek to achieve. As observers, we must watch for the consistency of their messaging. Are they adhering to announced dates? Is the distribution of new notes proceeding smoothly? Are they addressing the concerns of the diaspora? These operational details are the true indicators of whether the reform is on track. From a psychological perspective, this moment is highly charged for long-term dinar holders. It brings a mix of validation, hope, and anxiety. It is crucial not to let these emotions dictate financial decisions. The fear of missing out might tempt you to buy more notes without due diligence, while the fear of loss might tempt you to sell prematurely to predatory buyers offering pennies on the dollar. The antidote to emotional investing is information and logic. Ground your decisions in official releases from the central bank. Disregard the hype and the doom-mongering. Approach this as a business transaction requiring a cool head and a steady hand. Investors and holders should also recognize that external geopolitical factors will continue to play a massive role in the outcome of this reform. Iraq exists in a volatile region, and its economy remains largely tethered to the global price of oil. A sudden crash in oil prices or an escalation of regional conflict could compel the central bank to alter its plans or depress the value of the new currency, regardless of how well the internal reform is executed. Therefore, while the currency reform is a positive internal step, it does not insulate Iraq from broader global events. Monitoring worldwide economic trends is as necessary as monitoring local Iraqi news. If you are holding old notes, your immediate to-do list should be practical and defensive. Do not rush to sell, but do not blindly assume the process will be effortless. Take a full inventory of your holdings. Record serial numbers and categorize your notes by denomination and condition. If they are in a secure facility, check on them to ensure they haven't been damaged by humidity or pests. Back up any digital records of your purchases. This preparation ensures that when the official exchange process begins, you are ready to act immediately with all the necessary documentation for a smooth transaction. Furthermore, begin researching the banking laws in your own country concerning foreign currency exchange and holdings. Some nations impose strict limits on the amount of foreign currency that can be brought in or exchanged at one time without triggering regulatory scrutiny. Knowing these limits in advance will help you structure a legal and efficient exchange strategy. It may also be prudent to consult a financial professional specializing in foreign exchange or international tax law to understand the potential tax implications of any value gain. Being prepared on the regulatory and tax front is just as important as the physical handling of the notes. We must also consider the likelihood of a dual currency period, where both old and new notes circulate simultaneously for a set duration. This is a common practice in currency reforms, allowing the market to adjust gradually. During this overlap, retailers and banks in Iraq would likely accept both forms but dispense only the new currency. For international holders, this window is often the critical period to act. Once the old notes are officially demonetized and stripped of their status as legal tender, they become mere collectibles with no monetary value. Monitoring for the announcement of this specific sunset date for the old notes is arguably the single most important piece of information you will need to track. Ultimately, this reform signifies Iraq's attempt to turn a page and close a difficult chapter in its history. For the nation, it is a stride towards sovereignty and economic normalcy. For the investor or holder, it is the culmination of a long speculative hold and the beginning of a logistical reality. The transition from a speculative asset to a realized one is rarely straightforward. It is a complex process filled with bureaucratic hurdles and market adjustments. The get-rich-quick narrative often associated with this currency should be replaced with a manager-asset-wisely mindset. The opportunity is shifting from accumulation to preservation and successful conversion. As we continue to monitor this situation, our commitment is to deliver the facts as released by official sources, stripping away rumors and focusing on actionable intelligence. We will keep a close watch on the central bank's press conferences, the Parliamentary Finance Committee's statements, and reports from international financial bodies like the IMF and World Bank regarding Iraq's progress. These are the sources that matter. Everything else is noise that distracts from the necessary preparation. In closing, this confirmed currency reform is a watershed moment that validates the attention so many have paid to the Iraqi dinar. However, validation does not equal guaranteed profit. It equals a requirement for increased responsibility and vigilance. The days of passively buying notes and storing them away are over. Now is the time for active management, careful planning, and staying informed through reliable channels. If you found this analysis helpful and want to ensure you receive critical updates on exchange procedures and deadlines, please subscribe to Dinar Flash News and turn on notifications. We will be here to break down every new development in this historic transition. Stay safe, stay organized, and we will see you in the next update.